45. Brown, 45. Hot, 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 hot.
You are listening to Any Given Sunday, Australia.
Yes, hello and welcome to the Any Given Sunday Australia podcast, the number one podcast in at least 3 households, 1 studio, NFL Australia head office, American Football Australia head office, ABC Studios, Budgie Smugglers, Unibet head office, Danny Boy, me and you. Worldwide we are growing. I actually went through some of our stats the other night, and some of the places that we are actually trending, Guatemala, believe it or not. Real weird. But I like it. It's fun. We are trending literally worldwide currently. Joining us, as always, in the western wing of his bird cave, at Danny Webb, AGSAU. How are you, mate?
You forgot DeWalt Tools.
DeWalt
Tools.
We just announced our winner. Congratulations to, I can't even say his Instagram handle, but yeah, huge.
The Schnitz.
The Schnitzels, yeah. He's a good man. He's been a long-time follower of the show, so I'm glad that he won it. But, yeah, we are growing, Danny Boy. It's huge.
Constantly growing, constantly moving in the right direction too. And mad shout out to NFL Australia for their little draft party, which I'm sure we're going to get into as well.
I was just about to mention we are also big at Yarra Botanica because we did attend the NFL draft party. And our man, huge shout out to Ask Charlie Pick for being the commissioner and absolutely dominating the night, mate. You were huge.
It was a lot of fun. I will say that the whole night was made for me. Just hearing the NFL draft chime every time before I got up to to draft someone, that was a genuinely exciting thing. For those that weren't there, it was actually just a great night. It was like, well done to the NFL. They're really doing a great job of pushing the game in Australia and building excitement, particularly heading towards the game next year. And this was perfect timing. As draft eve coincided with Anzac Day Eve, so everyone was up for a good night. And what the plan was is I was on behalf of the NFL drafting individuals to various teams that were going to be picking the next day, so that they could get on that draft journey along with those teams. We had sports reporters, influencers, some other influencers, sports reporters. Anyway, it was a good bunch of people. And it was just an awesome night. And it was great. Similar to going and watching the Super Bowl at the NFL viewing party there. Just great to be with the community that are into it. And also a lot of new people who are getting into the NFL as well. It is growing, which is good news for us, I will say.
Absolutely. And my one question, Charlie.
And just on that.
I'll go Danny, and then I'll go Thomas.
This
Danny?
better be a fucking good point, Danny Boy.
No, I was just wondering, because you said you got to draft a lot of people. Was the reason that Any Given Sunday wasn't drafted, would that be like colluding because you're also the commissioner? Or are we going to sign as undrafted free agent?
It would definitely be a conflict of interest. And as you know, except for the fact that we are the worst Greens, Eagles and Bills stands in the world, we do like to keep some appearance of objectivity. So, we are journalists, are we? No, we're not. But
yeah, sports media, for sure.
Sports media heavyweights.
Yeah. Yeah, no, good point. I do think we are undrafted free agents, and I've gone straight to Lambeau, so I'm pretty happy with my pick. So, Charles, my question for you was, you did have to leave early. You did have early meetings, but that's what you told us. I feel like you went home and watched draft day. Is that really what happened?
Yeah, I did. I did go home and watch draft day. I got home and I went to bed and I was like, I can't fall asleep without having watched draft day.
It's not real.
Before the draft tomorrow. Real. So of course I did. It is, as I said on the night, it's the best and worst movie of all time. And gotta love it. And that's actually, I want everyone to get in their head today as we talk about what actually went down at the draft. And at some point towards the end, I want your take on who you think had the most, Kevin Costner's Browns draft day experience. Who was the most draft day team on draft day this year? We'll have a chat about that shortly. I think there are a few contenders.
And it was a huge, for something, a draft leading into the draft, I thought this was just going to be a pretty straight up and down, a pretty vanilla type draft. No trades had happened before the day. And then bang, as soon as we get into it, the Jags are trading up early. The number one was the number one. It was paying $1.01. We all knew Cam was going there. But the Jags, Danny boy, they really came out and surprised us with a very early trade.
New GM makes big splash. This is what we all wanted to see, wasn't it? Like we were talking prior to this that we just want to see someone move because it creates the excitement. And it's like one of the best parts about the draft day itself is seeing what teams trade up, what teams trade down, and what for. So the Jags actually moved from pick 5 to number 2 to get Travis Hunter. 2-for-1 player, really, because he said, I'm playing cornerback and I'm playing wide receiver, or don't play me at all. So kind of getting 2-for-1.
Welcome to special teams, fella.
So obviously he's not going to play every single snap. There's no way, because otherwise they'll just run him into the ground. But still huge, having a player that is that versatile. And the Browns actually got the Jags 2026 first-round pick and the 36th in the 2025 and a pick 126 for this. So it was a big haul. And I don't actually hate this from the Browns either, because if they weren't after Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, moving out and going into 2026 first round and now having 2 first-round picks in that draft is huge.
It's interesting, and I think this was going off on the group chat with us at that exact moment. If you remember Myles Garrett when he decided to re-sign with the Browns, there was so much talk around that time, and particularly as the draft class became clear, Myles had said, I've spoken with the GM, I'm happy with the plan. And it really felt like they were going to use that second pick. A lot of people thought it would be Abdul Carter, and you'd have that 1-2 punch up front with the Browns. Myles Garrett and Abdul Carter together would just be a terrifying thing to have to deal with. You got to wonder how Myles felt about that trade. Did he know that that was going to happen? Was he part of the consultation? Is he happy where it ended up? You know, because he doesn't have that running mate now, and a bit more falls on his shoulders. But from the Jags' point of view, I think it was bold. And the big question still remains, like Travis Hunter is an incredible talent, but you have to have the right coaching approach with him.
Yep.
Because you could have half a wide receiver and half a cornerback, and that's not really going to serve you too much at all. You actually have to have a plan for developing both sides of his game properly. And what meetings is he in? Does he do the first year as a wide receiver, or is he doing the first year to learn the system for cornerback? He can't be in all the meetings all the time. It's going to be a real challenge for the Jags, who I think have to prove that they can be a reliable organization in that regard.
He's got not a bad quarterback throwing to him if he does go the wide receiver path. But I think after talking to Loz, and I spoke to Loz for quite a bit after we had him on last week, I think he goes down the cornerback route, but then slotting in for 15, 20 plays on the wide receiver side, which we did say was going to happen at the Browns, but pretty happy the Jags will do very, very similar, I think. Give him a weapon for Big Trev, but also just solidify that, especially after losing so much on the cornerback side of things at the Jags. So I think he'd be predominantly cornerback, but then just sprinkling him in for a few plays at wide receiver.
What? Sorry, my camera I think I lost focus. I'm not sure if it was the camera or me, but I lost focus. Don't take it personally.
You did definitely lost focus. Danny boy, so you're happy with the Browns taking those kind of risks, even though they've got very much a supporter base that will be wanting to win now instead of, we don't want 2026 picks, we want to win this year.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And obviously the fan base and Myles Garrett might be upset, but we've already spoken about how strong this draft class is going to be for 2026. And it's not the worst. Like, if you know that you're not going to be winning this year, which I'm assuming they're thinking that they're still not, we'll get to that with our next point. Why not? Why not? If you're not 100% and you already know you're going to upset Myles Garrett, he signed that big contract, so I don't know how upset he can really be, but you've already upset him. So why not get a couple more picks in the 2026 draft, which is looking like a stronger draft at this point?
Yeah, smart. I don't think he's upset. I reckon he knew what was happening. You're not going to be signing him to that kind of deal and then be like, hey, by the way, we're not getting what you want. Like I reckon he knew what the general plan was. I have to believe that Jags didn't come up with this plan the morning of the draft. This is a couple of weeks out. They've started to, whether they've reached out to the Browns and just started to float the idea. I do love this. Out of the 6 billion mock drafts, there was not one that had the Jags trading up. Like, this was a complete surprise, which was huge, and I did enjoy that, and it really got my blood flowing early in that draft. But Danny, you were right, walking straight into that point number 2. The pick that everyone thought was going to go early, that didn't go early, and was news for a day and a half. Shedeur Sanders not getting picked up to pick 144 and still went to the Browns.
Wild, right? Wild that he still went to the Browns. It was a huge slide. We spoke about him potentially not going on day 1, but we never spoke about him going pick 144. Like, that is almost Tom Brady-esque sort of style numbers sliding down that far. My more important point of this is that the Browns actually picked up another QB at pick 94, Dylan Gabriel, which is wild. So have the Browns now just given themselves a quarterback problem? So you've got Watson, who's still technically on board, even though he's questionable. Who knows what's happening with him in a moon boot. Flacco, Pickett, Gabriel, and now Sanders. Sanders doesn't even show up on the ESPN depth chart. Like, this is the hard knocks team that everyone's has to be asking for, because this is a massive, massive battle just to even get in the top 3 spot in this QB room.
Well, you're right.
And you look at that list and you have to just kind of wonder who's actually going to be competing. Like, I think it's most likely Flacco is starter. Like, he's the reliable starter. The Browns had success with him when he filled in and helped them out before. Watson, I don't think you know what it's going to be, whether his Achilles is even functioning, or if there's any positivity about Watson at all in the building. You'd have to wonder. But then you got to think it's going to be Pickett and Sanders competing more than Gabriel competing for that last spot. It's it's such a strange predicament for the Browns to end up in. And did you see the video of the Browns when they made the pick and took Sanders?
I missed it, but I saw your message saying they couldn't be more flat.
They looked just, there was no emotion in the room at all. It had the feeling like the owner was on the phone going, and right now you're going to pick Shedeur Sanders. It looked like no one in the room wanted to make that pick at that time. And if we get should we get into the gossip side of the whole Sanders thing? The number of little stories that come out, and what everyone's trying to figure out is why he fell so far. What was it about Shedeur Sanders that fell so far? I think there's a very calm explanation for this that is that's actually less scandalous and less conspiracy theory based, which is there weren't a lot of teams looking for a quarterback in this draft. Yeah. Now, yes, it's kind of strange that I think the Steelers still come out of the draft without a quarterback.
They got one.
Oh, did they? Sorry, hang on. Who'd they get?
They picked up late. They got Will Howard from Ohio.
Oh, yes, sorry. That's my mistake. But obviously not a high draft priority for them.
No, pick 185.
Whether they think, Rodgers is still their option. But there weren't a lot of teams that needed a quarterback. And if you are going to draft a quarterback for traits, he doesn't have a huge arm. There are limits physically to the game that he can offer. And so there are a lot of reasons why you wouldn't take him as your developmental quarterback for your team. But a lot of the feedback, a lot of the stories that got leaked and whether or not they're true or not, one big story was that I read one account that when he had his meeting with the Giants, with Daboll, he was doing whiteboard work to sort of talk through plays. He just was unprepared, had no idea what he was doing, had not studied at all, could not work out plays on the board. And it's funny, after that, various clips started leaking after that of Daboll talking to people like Jaden Daniels when they were having meetings at the Giants, showing just how intense those whiteboard sessions are when you get a quarterback prospect in, and you have to be able to do it. You have to be able to talk ball properly. And the other things that people were saying was he brought a massive entourage with him everywhere that he went into meetings with head coaches still with his headphones on and music playing the whole time around his neck while he's talking with them. And whether true or not, that becomes an image problem for Shedeur Sanders. That, all of that suggestion that he felt like he was owed his future in football, or he thinks he's better than he is, that seems to be confirmed by the way that he's behaved in these meetings. That's if every account is true. And there might be a lot of people out to take him down. The other thing that people have said is that teams may have been interested in Shedeur Sanders, but they didn't want his dad bringing the noise and bringing the static. And if you think about it, you're a team that needs a quarterback. You're a team, you coach and GM are probably already on the hot seat. You have to rebuild that team and get it working and get them winning. You don't need another critic loud in the media getting all of the attention while you are trying to go about your work. And I think there are big questions about Deion Sanders repping his kids and the fact that they're now signing with agents because they realize that their dad isn't the one to be doing the deals for them. So there's a big picture there that maybe maybe Shedeur Sanders deserved a better opportunity, but there was just too much noise around him, for any franchise that wanted to take him on. But thankfully, he went to a sound team with no historical issues.
Not
like
a quarterback anyway. It's got a very good quarterback room for him to walk into, and it's very much looking at that the five of them. It's very much like who you're going to marry, who you're going to love, who you're going to cut kind of situation. And I think that plenty of those coming out. But Danny boy, you're the man with the boots on the ground and the ears where they need to be. Any truth to the rumours that he walked into the Giants meeting and told Daboll that you've only got 12 months, my dad will be head coach?
Yeah, that's got to be 100% fact. That's the reason that he got picked. He was the 6th quarterback off the board of the 14 that was taken. 6. So there was 5 QBs that got taken before him. And I reckon it was exactly for that exact reason, because he walked in and said, my daddy is going to be the coach.
I reckon there's a fair chance he actually did say that. So there is so much noise. And you said, Charles, whether it's true or not, the narrative becomes the narrative by all the chatter that there is. And so there's a few teams that start hearing a few different things and going, actually, we don't want that smoke coming into our building. And we've seen it with the Jets for 50 years, that they bring that smoke in and it just blows them up. So
that's right. I was thinking of the Jets, and even thinking of the Jets recently with a talent like Rodgers, whether or not you think he's still got it. But yes, for a team like the Jets, the noise and the gravitational pull that goes to a player with that level of ego, who loves the attention, who makes it about themselves all the time, that is not healthy for a team. And you've got, Salah's off being a defensive coordinator somewhere rather than a head coach because that noise was too much for the Jets organization to handle. And you have a look at the success stories when it comes to quarterback, and they're people that work hard and put the team first. Like they need an ego to be a quarterback. You have to have self-belief just to be able to physically get on the field and do that job. But you can't think you're better than the team, and you can't think that you don't have a lifetime to learn as quarterback, because most quarterbacks don't really hit their straps for 5 or 6 years until they really understand the game and they've learned enough.
Yeah, and quick enough. There's
on learning the game before we move on. Just on learning the game, do you think Watson, Flacco, and Pickett are the ones to learn off?
You might learn more off the other QB that got picked up. Gabriel, he come from Oregon. He's got a good arm on him. So.
But hasn't Gabriel's? I'm trying to. Hasn't Gabriel he was played 4 years or whether he's isn't he?
Yeah, there's a couple that are older than players that are already playing. It's blows your mind some of the age of some of these guys. So
it's interesting. I don't know. You could learn a lot from Flacco just about career longevity and just
he is a Super Bowl winner. We forget that.
Super Bowl winner. I think one of us doesn't forget that. Yeah. But it's he could learn a lot about doing solid 1 year contracts, traveling around and seeing a lot of the country. And that's something you can learn 40. From Flacco.
But I think there's a big difference between confidence and ego and arrogance, and he brings that arrogance side. I've heard a lot of things, like you said, shitting on his teammates, saying don't worry about talking to him because he's not going to make it, that kind of shit. And I reckon teams listen to that and they don't want that in their building. So.
And you have to say, just from an Australian sensibility, this is, and I know it's America and it's very different, but if my name was in the draft, I would not build a custom built nightclub in my own home with every hat from every team and the level of hubris that he put into his draft night setup, thinking it was going to be a coronation of the new king of football. There's something about that to me that just said I would never do that just because everyone would give me too much shit if it didn't go well. And look what happened. It became a very embarrassing thing. No victory lap there.
No.
It was just getting lapped.
And that wasn't the only embarrassing thing that happened. Danny?
Yeah, sorry. I was thinking that on the fact that he set up his own room and he wasn't actually there at draft day, that he actually knew that he wasn't going in the first round.
No.
That was my theory behind it all.
He thought he was going in the first round. He's not going into that kind of bravado and thinking, I'm not getting picked. But he did get called early on day 2, Danny. I don't know if you saw this. And it was actually a prank call from the son of Atlanta Falcons, I think OC. And he saw the number from the Falcons draft room or whatever and gave him a call and told him they like him, but you're going to have to wait a bit more. And that was, look, all the arrogance and bravado, that's a real kick in the plums, Danny.
Yeah, you're never going to like that. You're never going to like that. But it's interesting that because it happened to Sanders, it's all big news. There was players way further down the board. One of them said he got prank called 6 times. And no one's talking about it. But if you're Sanders, obviously everyone's going to talk about it. Not ideal. Kids are going to do it, though, if they can get their hands on their number. Super unprofessional, and they're probably going to get a big whack for it, but it's going to happen.
Surely all this can be avoided just by, for the draft, all the players just get a dedicated phone and a number, and only GM have it, and that's it. Everyone has a burner. That's all you need.
I think it was a burner. That was the problem.
Wow.
One of the problems. But, yeah, you're right, Danny. It would have happened to 15 other players and no one's hearing about that. So that's changed my tune. So stop sooking, Sanders. Come on. You got picked up. Give it up. All right, let's talk about some other teams that have done really well. The Giants. Getting Carter and Dart in the first round, really starting to turn the ship around, like the Texans of a couple of years ago, Danny Boy.
I actually love this. Absolutely love this. Abdul Carter would have been the one. I said he was going second because I thought he was going to go to the Browns, which would have made sense. Sorry, Myles Garrett again. So he was my pick anyway. So that was absolutely huge. And the fact that then they traded back in to get Dart is so smart. So they've got Russell Wilson just warming up his seat for him. We know Russell Wilson's not going to be around forever. It's actually probably not a bad spot for him to go in and for him to not start and actually find his comfort and then really develop into the player that he's going to be. Daboll is going to continue to redefine his craft and actually get him to where he needs to be. And also, Dart was really good on the ground. No one really spoke about this, but he accounted for 25% of Ole Miss's rushing yards. 25%, that's huge. And that is something that Wilson does not do. So it is going to be a nice comparison between the two. And I reckon he'll end up trying to fight for that number 1 spot towards the end of the season.
This move, everything about this first round for the Giants, I think it was great. I think it was smart. I think it was also exactly what you do when the coach, Daboll, GM, Shane, are definitely on the hot seat. You would say that if it wasn't going well at the end of 25, there's a chance they're not there as the regime at the Giants. So they had to do something like this. They've mortgaged the future a little bit to do it. But I think they have, like you say, created that future. And Daboll, when he was OC at the Bills, had a bit of a project of a quarterback that was good on the ground running as well, but had to learn a sophisticated, complicated offensive scheme. Hopefully that's the situation. The Dart situation works for Daboll the way that, Josh Allen worked out for him. And even if it's not a Josh Allen type talent, Daboll's been there and he does know how to do it. And this might be the opportunity he has to take the time, like you say, Danny, and make it work. I mean, the Giants have a lot of things to fix, but let's not forget they made the playoffs 2 years ago and were exciting to watch and had a certain foundation that they could absolutely build on.
And Danny, you say he's going to learn off Russell Wilson. I think he's going to learn how to be a locker room man from Jameis Winston and become the real the character that Jameis is. And go forward, we're going to have a bit more Jameis in the world because he is hilarious when he gets a microphone. He's destined to be in a media when he's finished, surely.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure to put on Dart to match Jameis's personality. I mean, like Eddie Murphy's going, I'm not
is.
sure I can go that big. Like,
Nah, I love it. I think it's a great pick. I loved them trading back into the first to pick up their QB, and then trading back into first to pick up someone who wasn't Shedeur Sanders was even better for the day. Like it just made that round one so awesome. And I'm sticky. Like I reckon they go all right this year. The Giants, like a building year, better than last year, and then 2 years time we might see some Giants actually again pushing for the playoffs, and you never know what's going to happen in the Big Apple. The only real team in New York, really.
oh, come on, Tom. Come on, you're better than that.
In New Jersey, I should say. Sorry. But some huge news out of the draft. We have, the only Australian picked up in the draft. Friend of the show, Jeremy Crawshaw, who's been on, and if you haven't seen, check out his episode because he was incredible to talk to about the whole process, and so stoked that he actually got picked up because he's got a booming leg, and he's gone to the Broncos, Mile High City. Air's a little bit thinner up there, so I reckon the ball might even travel a little bit better. So wait till we see some absolute bombs. But post-draft as well, we've had some undrafted free agents as well as a couple have gone in there to minicamp. Fraser Mazin, again, Ole Miss, friend of the show. He's gone, I didn't know. Well, I won't guess now, but he's gone somewhere, Pittsburgh or somewhere, just to have a kick. And there's a couple more that have gone to the Jets and things like that. So huge pro kick just kind of rolling him out again, Charlie.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's exciting just anytime an Aussie gets drafted is huge. But also for Jeremy, the Broncos are an exciting team to be a part of. He's joining at a great time. Bo Nix had a great first season. And it feels like Coach Payton has a plan and really has turned that team around very quickly. So that's a great time to land and be a part of a franchise that I think is going to be causing a lot of trouble in the AFC West this season.
Mm.
You know, that's going to be a really interesting division now, the AFC West. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. The Chargers are stronger. Like the Chargers are definitely getting stronger. And look, the Chiefs did well in this draft. Like they picked up some really good players in this draft. But at the same time, they are as wobbly as they've been for a team that just made the Super Bowl last year. But there was nothing convincing about this season or the Super Bowl. And so I think it's wide open for Jeremy and the Broncos to have a good season in 25.
And I spoke to him earlier this morning, and he has invited us to a Denver Bronco game. And I know, Danny boy, you're a big fan of the Bo Cane, so we'll have to go along.
Anything to see Bo Nix throw some darts. But the issue is, Bo Nix was like really surprised us last year. You almost want to see Jezza really perform, and that means Bo Nix has to not perform so well. So it's a real tough bow for us when we're really rooting for these Australians. You want their teams to do well, but also at the same time, you're like, I want to see Jezza kick it. I want to see him send it. And I want to see him prove why he deserved this spot and why he didn't get picked up earlier.
Mm. But even just being picked up as a punter, like people don't understand how rare and how awesome that is. So huge shout out to him. Danny boy, you've been working hard behind the scenes to get us a few more names. James Burnip, he did sign. The only thing I don't like he signed as an undrafted free agent at New Orleans. He'll be competing against Matty Hayball, the other Australian, which that's the only thing I don't like about that. Otherwise, huge for him. And Oscar Chapman at the Minnesota Vikings. So he'll be punting a lot, which will be good for him.
You just can't not take off your Green Bay hat, can you?
No,
we just got to avoid talking about your division.
Yeah, no. I'm actually going to pump up one of my other division as we speak next, because I don't know how much you actually get to see of the draft, but I watched it on our DAZN accounts to make sure they're still live, they're still good. Make sure you hit us up for our code. But I watched day 2 and day 3. Green Bay turned out. I don't know how much you actually saw the crowd, but 600,000+ in attendance over the 3 days. Just to give you a bit of an idea of how good that is, there's only one team that's actually defeated that kind of numbers, which was Detroit the year before, had 700,000+. But otherwise, Kansas only had 300,000 in 2023. Philly, only 250,000. So some huge numbers turning out to Green Bay, Danny boy.
Absolutely massive. And wasn't it cold, like surprisingly cold? I could have sworn I heard someone saying that, like, you know, it's amazing that all these people are outside and, like, the weather wasn't great, but I guess it is. It's Green Bay, so you never really expect the weather to be that
I think the
fantastic.
sun was out, but it was
But
just
for all those people, for all those people who just be out there in the weather, braving it. But draft, it's such a fun event. Like, anyone can watch it. It's still enjoyable. Like, they make a big show and dance of it all. And it's, like, for the long-time fan, it's amazing. And for new fans, it's great too.
It'll be good, Charlie, when they send us there next year up to Pittsburgh, which will probably be even colder.
Yeah, it definitely will be cold. Can be very miserable in Pittsburgh, but surely we get a Guernsey next year. We've got to be a chance. We're doing everything right to make ourselves appealing.
I can't see us not getting a Guernsey, to be honest.
As long as we're not so indispensable now at the NFL's Australian draft night function, if they think that they can't let us go because they need us here.
That is true. Maybe, well, me and Danny are dispensable. You will have to stay. We will be headed over there. You're going to have to stay and MC again, mate, be the commissioner because you dominated. That was so good to watch. Unfortunately for you.
It was an absolute, this is the most fun draft, I think, in quite a few years. It just felt like there was so much going on. And
it matches the Texans moving up a couple of years ago when they made it.
I think you're right. I think it is. It was sort of that exciting and interesting. And I think there was something in it for every team. You know, I think every team really got something out of it. Who do you think won the draft? How about that?
Great segue. So we've got an off-season full of power rankings, and it's moved to me. So I've got the top 5 power rankings. My number 1 is the team that I thought won the draft. So I'll let you two boys, if you have a winner of the draft, you can discuss after I've said mine. So I'm just going to quickly go through it. So from 5 to 1, I've got the Colts. I think they picked up the best tight end out of the draft. So, and a good edge rusher with their second pick too. So I reckon they've kind of built, given Richardson and however many other quarterbacks they have, a target. So I like that. The Raiders, a couple of really good picks from them. A couple of late picks that are going to hold them in good stead. So I think they did quite well. And they've replaced Josh Jacobs from a couple of years ago with Ashton Genty early in the draft. The Jags, we've already spoken about the Jags and what they did and how exciting they made the draft. They're up there for the draft day type setup. It's debatable between them and another team who actually got the draft day set up, the Kevin Costner Award. But yeah, their moves made the day and it was awesome for them. So they're my number 3. This one you're going to give me shit about, but the Packers at number 2. Finally,
really? The Packers?
23 years, we've taken a wide receiver. We didn't take 1, we took 2. But taking that in the first round, that was huge. And I do think that we're going to do pretty well. And we've got a couple of cornerbacks too. Dare I say it, I think we were very stiff to be edged out for the number 1 spot. But I think the Giants take the number 1 spot. And it's not even close. They were a long way. We've said the 2 they took in the first round. But I actually think what really made theirs was either the 3rd or 4th round pick. They got a running back, Cam Scatterbo, out of Arizona State. I don't know if you've seen much of him last year. He is an absolute monster. And he played a bowl game where they got absolutely smashed and he got MVP. That's how good he was last year.
Yeah.
So I think that pickup, just to really add to their offensive stocks, he's going to be a Saquon Barkley type. Maybe not as athletic, but he's going to smash mouth and he's going to run through a few teams. So I've got the Giants winning this draft and showing things in the future.
Well, Danny, what do you make of that top 5? Because it would be different to my top 5, but I think a lot of what you said does make a lot of sense. I think you've been generous to a couple of teams there.
Yeah, so let's boot the Packers close to the top 10 and potentially even out of the top 10. Like, to me, that was a B grade draft at best.
Shut up.
I mean, a couple of honorable mentions.
You're
A couple of honorable mentions that probably should have been up there as the Seahawks. They did well in like guard and center and like protecting a QB, which they haven't really had. And now they got Sam Darnold. They really, really need to protect him. And also probably a big shout out to the Patriots. Went after offensive tackle, wide receiver, and defensive tackle. So they didn't get exactly who they were hoping for in like Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, but they really still went out there and did everything they did to actually help their team moving forward.
Yeah, I had the Patriots very high. They came out with 11 picks. Like, they picked 11 dudes. There's no way that all of those 11 are going to end up on the roster. but it was definitely a draft where you could see Vrabel really making his stamp straight away, which I think you needed to see from the Patriots. Like, obviously he's beloved by the Patriots, but you get that sense that he's building the kind of team that he wants to build. I think you're right about the Giants. I think something that we've learned in the last few years is if you do not have a top shelf running game, you're actually just not in contention. Like, you have to have a genuine runner that can be a difference maker on any game that you need it to be anywhere near contention. And I think that, the Giants have done that. I do think that I will say the Giants, I believe, are my Kevin Costner draft day team.
Yeah, they were the other team to the Jags.
Sprinkled it with a little pixie dust, came away with more in the first round. I think they really maximised their opportunity. The Jacksonville Jaguars reminded me of the Jacksonville Jaguars a little bit in draft day, just that they had the youngest GM in the entire league doing some deals on the night. That felt very familiar, but doing good deals, not stupid deals.
Didn't lose the draft.
But I actually think our teams, Danny, the Bills and the Eagles did very well as well. And it wasn't necessarily glamorous, but they did the things that when it's the Eagles and the Bills playing in the Super Bowl, people will talk about going, they win it in the trenches, they win it in the trenches, and they win it in the trenches. And that's sometimes it's not glamorous, but they know the kind of players that they need to plug those spots. So I think our team did very well.
Yeah, I don't want to mention the Eagles because I was just giving TMac too much for harping on his own team. But seeing you brought it up, Charlie, I'm more than happy to talk about it. We lost out on our defense this offseason, and our first 5 picks was linebacker, safety, defensive tackle, cornerback, and linebacker. Like, we did exactly what we needed to do for Howie to go out there. It's like, right, we lost half our defense. Let's plug them with rookies. It worked last year. Let's do it again, and let's keep on building on this. In Howie, we trust.
But apart from that, great top 5, great power rankings.
Charles, when the Bills have 65 picks, it's hard not to find some little bit of gold in there.
That's right. Well, I mean, the big controversy with the Bills is that we took one receiver really, really late in the draft, and a lot of people thought we needed a fast receiver. And Bean actually got on Buffalo Sports Radio and gave them a bollocking in the last couple of days because he was waiting on the line, and they were talking about, I wish we drafted a receiver early. And he just went on and said, we were the highest scoring offense in the league. It's our defense that stopped us winning championships. And similar thing, Danny, like the Bills, they needed interior defensive line, they needed edge rusher, they needed safety, needed corner, and they did it. And they did it with options, and they've gone with traits and will develop. And it's one of those things that to have depth on your line of scrimmage and on defense is, we all know. Look at the Detroit Lions. They were the team to beat right up until injury wiped out their defense. Same thing happened to the Bills the previous year. You got to have depth. You got to have quality. And, I think the Eagles and the Bills are really in a very good position for next season.
The only thing that I really took out of this draft, and I read it online out of X, formerly known as Twitter, in a QB light draft, the Browns still managed to draft 2 of them. So that's huge by them. So I love that. One final question that we spoke about during the draft, and it's because of things that happened in the draft. Is Rodgers certain to go to the Steelers now, Danny, after they did take Will Howard at number 185? Speaking with Loz, a lot to learn, a long way to go to be an NFL quarterback, Will Howard. So they're still very light at QB. Does this just mean that Rodgers is all but a Steeler?
Is it certain that Rodgers is going to be anything at this point? Like, if he was going to be a Steeler, would it not have been announced by now? Like, he is just dancing around teams. Everyone else is like getting signed as QBs. Steelers is the only option really now for him to go. So has he just lost a bit of bargaining power? And is he just going to sign on the dotted line just to play? Or is Rodgers too proud in that fact and he's going to absolutely Rodgers it and just sit out?
Charles?
Well, I think it's a steep road back for Rodgers. And I don't think there's enthusiasm. You have a look at Mike Tomlin talk about it. Mike Tomlin's not talking about how great he is and what he would do for the franchise. He's being very Mike Tomlin about the whole thing. You know, almost uninterested in quarterback. That's a very Mike Tomlin thing. But I don't think there is enthusiasm for it. I mean, right now, a couple of names that no one's talking about, but how fit is Jimmy Garoppolo? And I saw a statement that the 38-year-old Colin Kaepernick is still working out.
Oh, shit.
Still fit. How about that?
Wowee. That would be.
But that's just, I think, like either his agent or someone in his, in his orbit put out a statement saying that he is available. I would personally love to see Colin Kaepernick at the Steelers. That's my crazy suggestion. Not going to happen.
I don't know how we would go. It's a very workman-like town, the steel mill of Steelers. I don't know how Colin Kaepernick would go in there.
Well,
I don't know if the crowd would accept Colin Kaepernick.
I mean, that's a very different question.
There might be yellow towels on the field.
Could be, but
so you reckon they'd be happy with Mason Rudolph just there, just a workhorse?
That's why I think Aaron Rodgers will go there instead. Mason Rudolph's not a first starter. Sorry, mate. The last time he started, he got hit in the head with a helmet. So I don't think he'd be. I don't know if you only remember that. Myles Garrett smashing Mason Rudolph in the head.
That's right. Yeah.
Very funny video. Not great, but funny to watch.
Wacky. Put some sound effects on it. It's very funny.
Yeah, a bit of, what's that tune? That's of a song, whatever it is. But yeah, I don't think Mason Rudolph is a starter. So they're either going to be just their defense will hold them. And very Steelers took a linebacker with their first pick, unsurprisingly, when they need everything else. I think there's definitely someone that.
I've actually just got some hot breaking news. Not fully breaking, but almost breaking. Hot breaking rumor. That's even better. So the Steelers are actually predicted to trade for $66 million quarterback over Aaron Rodgers, and it was one I just mentioned.
Kirko changed.
Kirk Cousins is now the predicted starter of the Steelers as of today.
Wow. When's that happening? Boots to the ground. Tell us. Put your balls on the line.
Well, let's just stay tuned.
Yeah,
stay tuned. Huge news. That is absolutely huge news, though.
All right. Well, that's the question to you. If you are running the Pittsburgh Steelers, which janky old Achilles are you going to trust? Are you going to trust Kirk No Change, great attitude, shitty Achilles? Or are you going to...
They can play off for it. We'll see whose Achilles lasts longer.
Wouldn't that be great? Competition between those two old fucks just trying to get about in the pocket.
Yeah. Maybe they can split reps just to make sure that their Achilles get through.
Do you know, if you, all things being equal, you'd take Cousins, wouldn't you, just for locker room?
Yeah, after the past couple of seasons of what we saw of Rodgers at the Jets, I'm taking Cousins. Yes, he didn't perform well at Atlanta. Yes, they gave him way too big of a contract and it was silly in the first place. But in saying that, you just look back, I don't know, Rodgers to me seems like he's declining quicker than what Kirk Cousins is. He had some absolute blinders, but also made a lot of mistakes towards the end of his tenure at Atlanta. But he did have some good games. He was completing a lot of passes.
I have to stay out of this because I'm still saying Aaron Rodgers over Chain. You go back through the stats, he had a better year than a lot of people. When he said this a few years ago, his average years are people's, years of their life.
Career years. Yeah.
So I still think Aaron. I actually blame the Jets. It's not Aaron's fault. It was the Jets. They stink. Their organisation sucks. So I think Rodgers to the Steelers and they make the playoffs for the 65th year in a time in a row. All right, we've been talking a bit too long.
Is that the look that was in Devontae Adams' eyes a lot of the time on the field? Was that it? Oh, it's not Rodgers, it's the Jets. Was that what that look was?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's not Benny and the Jets. It was Rodgers and the Jets. One final question before we wrap up this, which was an incredible draft, and it's just for you, Charles, because you are the draft day specialist. How many people went to Shedeur Sanders' birthday?
Yeah, no one from his team went to Shedeur Sanders' birthday. And the craziest thing, they sent him the playbook, right? This is what I heard. They sent him the playbook.
Yeah, go on.
And they asked him if he'd read it, and he said yes. Then they asked him about the money taped in the back of the book, and he said, oh, yeah, real funny. He didn't just lie about reading the book. He lied about lying about reading the book.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, and do you know who sent it back? Jackson Dart. That's why the Giants picked him. That's why they picked him. Huge week, boys. Well done. Exciting draft. It was so much better than I was expecting. So look forward to seeing you in the next couple of weeks where we can talk about, wherever Coco Chains ends up.
Pittsburgh Steeler, Coco Chains.
Ooh. See you
You
soon,
heard it here
Danny.
first.
Go Bills.